This is our workshop session for July 6, 2021, and it's 6:30 p.m. We'll start with resolutions to be considered for July 12, 2021 meeting. Number 1, Laredo Baggett Insurance Agency Chicken Barbecue Request. Construction clause. I'm guessing, let's see when that is. Could be, yeah, October 3rd, 23rd. Is there any discussion on that?
I would hope that the parks will be, the construction will be done by October 23rd.
Or at least they can utilize a part of the park that's not being, construction around it.
Right.
Any other discussion?
Do we have to prove it now?
The resolution?
At the next meeting?
Yeah, but do you want something in there about construction going on, or no?
I don't know.
There might want to be something in the resolution if, depending on where the construction's at, to maybe utilize one, either east or
Okay.
west, depending on what's being constructed.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
If it's,
Just then we could have that on for the next week's agenda.
For the 12th? I'll have the attorney write it?
Yeah,
Are you turning
Okay.
that off?
yeah, thank you. It's hard to hear anything.
No, it interferes with his speakers.
if we get too hot, I'll turn it back on, but it's just
Okay,
very hard
thanks.
to hear.
I know, it's hard for me too, it's right in my ear, but I also don't want to breathe, I want to breathe.
Well, once it starts getting hot, we can turn it back on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, schedule of meetings for August through December 2021.
So, wait, Doug, what did we decide about one? Do we have to, we're going to act on it and say it's okay for October 23rd?
Yes, and depending on where they're doing construction around the commons, I can't imagine they'd be doing it on both the east and west at the same time. So
True.
whichever side's not being constructed around, they will be able to utilize that
Good deal.
side of Barker Common.
And the streets department will be the ones who move the benches?
They're asking that the picnic tables, the benches be moved?
That's all gonna be in the resolution.
Okay.
Additional trash receptacles, all that will be in the resolution.
Well, I'm just saying, and we know that the streets department won't have an objection to this.
Oh,
I don't
I don't
believe
think so.
Okay.
Pretty much if you resolve to that happening, that should happen.
Okay.
We informed them of that too, right? We said.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Any other discussion on Laredo Baggett Insurance Agency Chicken Barbecue? We'll move on to number 2, schedule of meetings August through December 2021. Are there any questions or any thoughts or any discussion on those dates?
Not of what's being presented, but it appears that it's becoming a kind of a problem having separated workshops and regular meeting dates, because it seems like on regular meeting dates, it's almost like a workshop. There's so much having to be discussed on a workshop that it'd be resolutions that are being discussed before they're last minute. Where normally when it was a workshop on that date, also you would discuss the work during the workshop. You would go over the resolutions like we did before, and it seemed to get more actually resolved and able to go forward with a regular meeting part without less of a problem as what we've been going through for quite some time now. I would like to see it move back if that's possible. But I guess it's...
Well, I guess everybody could have a thought on that. I mean, my thought is if this is the time to discuss those resolutions and go over them in detail, and if there are any questions, to do it at this time. I mean, it was kind of like the purpose of it, but if,
Well, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, still doing a lot of discussion at the
Yeah,
meeting.
a lot of discussion at the regular meeting. And I don't know if it's just because things keep popping up, an additional, or things because the resolutions a lot of times aren't put together until during that week before, or near the end of that week, and so when it's realized what's going forward, it has often actually shown that we need to change those resolutions, or we could, we're often presenting stuff that we don't really want on there anymore, and so we're removing them, or tabling awful lot of stuff. It seems like it would be more productive to just, if we had the workshop before the meeting, then those things would be dealt with before the actual meeting, like they used to be.
Then it would just be, the same thing would happen, but it'd be 2 weeks instead of 1 week to get it fixed. So, I mean,
I think it's been working pretty well. I do think that Jim's right in regard to the talking of the resolutions, but those have been the walk-on resolutions. As a matter of fact, last week's, the 2 resolutions in regard to the project in the park had a lot of discussion because they were walk-on. And, but I do think that for the most part, the workshop now also gives us time to correct and adjust and, get an idea of what's happening, and gives us time to put it right. But we have had walk-ons that have caused more discussion.
I mean, you could, if the workshop that beforehand would also address that, you could also, just because you have a workshop directly before the meeting doesn't mean those are what you would have to have resolutions for that meeting. You're just it's a final discussion. Your workshop at that point is for the next meeting, 2 weeks out. I think it gives you actually more time to work on those resolutions.
Any discussion from the right?
I like the way that it's working. I think that a week's time in between is ample time then, if I have questions about things or clarification for things, that then I'm more comfortable voting on them once we're voting on the resolutions a week later.
I'd just like to see us be more efficient.
Thank you.
I'd also like to see a Tuesday night instead of a Monday night.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not opposed to that.
Hmm?
I'm not opposed to that either. But
I can't do that.
You can't do Tuesday
I
nights?
can't do Tuesdays. Mm-mm.
So I guess as it stands, the board, the majority of the board would currently like to have that stay, but if
Okay.
you want
That's
to,
fine.
if you want to revisit this again,
At some point, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
okay, thank you. Move on to the Opera House 5K run and walk that's scheduled. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Another good event.
And they already have their certificate of insurance, so that's good.
Is everybody all good with the Opera House 5K run then? Okay. We had a Laurel Run walk, and they do the papers, and that was a request that was faxed to us, and I received it, and they ended up, I ended up getting this placed on my desk, and I ended up finding it today, and actually, the gentleman from Laurel Run, you guys have a packet in your, some paperwork in your packet to describe that. It's an event that goes on for the last 25 years or so. It's something, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I think we need to pass the resolution tonight because they want to sell newspapers tomorrow in Village downtown. And
In all
like
the
the
main
mayor said, he
intersections.
faxed the request to us weeks ago. A fax would never, it's the wrong way to do it. It should have been sent to me in an email. So when I realized that he wanted to do it next week, I put together a resolution and gave it to all of you to look at.
So if the board would consider looking at that, we'll give you some time towards the end of the
Phil,
workshop.
Are you there?
Can we do that, Bob?
I am Eva Don, go ahead.
Hi. I don't know if you're hearing that the Laurel Run is asking to sell newspapers tomorrow.
No notice of
And-
special meeting.
I mean, you know the routine. They stand in the intersection and sell newspapers.
Correct. I can let the guys know, and we shouldn't have a problem as long as we can keep them out of the street.
Okay, so you're okay with this happening tomorrow?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, if he's okay.
Well, if we can,
Okay, there was a question whether or not you are able to address any meeting business in a workshop. And I would assume because workshops are part of a meeting.
Yeah.
It's just, we're doing it previous. I mean, if you did it the night of the meeting.
It's
you would be able
official.
to.
It's
You have a quorum of
Yeah.
trustees here, so I would say yes, but.
It's an official meeting, but I have to wonder, do we actually need a resolution? Once again, this
For
is,
Laurel Run or the newspapers being sold
well, this
tomorrow?
is for the newspapers being sold,
It's for the
Laurel
whole
Run.
thing. It's for the Run and the newspapers
Okay.
and,
But can we just say, go ahead with the newspapers, the chief's okay with it, and do the resolution on Monday?
Monday?
For Laurel, for the Run? I understand the Run with the people and the
Mm-hmm.
insurance, but for the newspapers, if we just say if we're in agreement and the chief's okay with it, why do we have to have a resolution?
I just grabbed the
I
one
get
from
it.
2 years ago and.
I get it.
yeah.
But can't we just say it's okay with the police chief's blessing to sell the papers only, and we'll approve the Run on Monday?
Makes sense.
Can we be in agreement to just say it's okay to sell the newspapers with the chief's blessing?
Is there anybody that's opposed to that?
Seems all right.
Okay, then we'll do that, and we'll have the resolution for the Laurel Run Walk at the next meeting, along with the Opera House 5K run, if that's okay.
We have to remember that we don't have to resolution everything. I know we have in the past for the
No.
last 100 years, but we don't
Well,
have
we gotta
to.
be careful though, because people just showing up to sell stuff without permission.
Yeah, that's a whole nother issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anne Marie, if you could just forward me the routes in regards to both of those runs so I could look at them prior to the resolutions going through. There shouldn't be a problem. I'd just like to look at where they plan on running.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
All righty. We'll move on to new business. Dog Control Officer, any discussion, please?
I was going to report on that. As we had discussed during the budget process, I'd like to suggest that we hire an outsourced dog catcher. Denise Sense is an experienced dog catcher. She is employed by the City of Dunkirk, Town of Dunkirk, and as well as Town of Sheridan. She's covered the Village of Fredonia numerous times when our current dog catcher was not available. She has her own liability insurance. At the present time, we pay a stipend to one employee. However, this expired, I believe, on July 1st. If we
May
go,
31st.
pardon?
May 31st.
Okay, May 31st. If we go with Denise, she has agreed to charge us a per-dog fee, which would range between $75 and $150, but the $150 end range would be for dangerous dog situations. She's extremely organized and has an excellent documentation process for each time she's been called out for an issue with a dog. She's already established a working relationship with our police department as an ex-police officer herself, and I'd like to propose that we give it a try for a couple months and see how it goes.
I spoke to our accountant and I spoke to the town's accountant about, and I'm not opposed to hiring somebody to do this. I think that's a good idea, but both accountants told me that it's a lot smarter to use a stipend than a per dog thing, for two reasons. One, for a budgetary planning, because some years you might have 20 dogs, some years you might have 5 dogs, and there's no way that we can plan for that. The second part was that there are different kinds of calls. You mentioned the dangerous animal one, but there's also the calls where they don't have any animal. And so what the town, and also this was happening in Westfield, they had different rates for different kinds of calls, and the town accountant said it was a nightmare. So he said, do yourselves a favor, do a stipend.
And I think that the intent would be, the problem is that over the last 4 or 5 years, we haven't had an accurate assessment of how many dogs we currently deal with. And actually, Denise, in interviewing her, and both the personnel specialist and the treasurer sat in on those interviews, and in that meeting and she said, I think you have more dogs than you think you have as far as being reported, because she's had several calls herself in the past couple of months that aren't reported to us. One of her suggestions was that we go through the dispatcher in the police department rather than issue a phone to our dog control officer, which is how we've done it in the past. Then there's a documented call. The police also respond. We asked Chief Maslock to come up to the meeting as well. The chief also responds, the police also respond to nuisance calls that often doesn't involve the dog control officer. But if we run everything through the dispatcher, they're documented. What calls were made, who was involved, that kind of thing. But we wanted to do this for a couple of months so that we had an accurate assessment of the dogs we go through. She told us what the city of Dunkirk and the town of Dunkirk, how many dogs, there were hundreds of them. And we, on average, have 8 that have been reported. So maybe that's accurate, but maybe it's not. So one of the things we talked to her about was, what if we did this for 3 or 4 months, and then we came up with a more accurate use of, the dogs, and then we could build a stipend by then. Because quite frankly, if you look back, and this includes the town of Pomfret, town of Pomfret pays $8,000 for a dog catcher, and the village pays $7,000, just under. If we're only, between us, dealing with 15 or 20 dogs, that's a lot of money.
Well, I was told $2,800.
$2,800 for what?
The stipend for the dog catcher.
The stipend was almost $3,000 each. We had 2.
2 in the village?
And 2 in the town. And the town's pays more because they have more coverage. So between us, we pay a lot for dogs, but we're only dealing with us right now. But we pay just under $7,000. And that's a lot of money if we're only dealing with 8 dogs. So we asked about being able to do it for a couple months to get an accurate assessment.
I don't know. I need to talk to Erlissa again, because she told me we
Yeah, we
paid $2,800, and there was only 1, not 2, so I don't know.
Right now, that's the case, but you also have to take into consideration that the one that we have right now is also an employee of the village and leaves their job to answer any calls, which has become an issue.
All right, well, I mean, I'd still like to do a stipend. What I'd rather see is that, then, okay, let's do a $1,000 stipend for 3 months and see where that goes.
I mean, I agree with Scott. This stipend is a much smarter way of going about it, because
Yeah,
that's the only way to budget.
I would be fine with that,
Yes.
if she's
And-
willing to
but,
take a stipend for a few months and see how many we get. She did say that the summer months are typically the busier months for calls, so it definitely would give us a good
But
idea.
it's-
That's
it's
why we
not
wanted to do it for a couple
the-
months.
The issue with, when you're asking somebody to be available to deal with any animal issues is the thing, I know it doesn't seem like, it seems like a lot of money when you go per animal. Some years there's more, some years there's less, but the thing is that when we need them to come, the idea is that they go to take and deal with this issue, and to be available for that is why you're paying $2,800 per person to do it.
I think that's an excellent point, because
You
she's
know,
basically on call
You're
all
on
that
call,
time.
yeah. So, I mean, so it's not just, well, I'm only doing 8 dogs a year. It's that it could be, 28, could be 58, it could be, 2. But you're available all year long, so that's what the point of the stipend is for.
Well, I think that by dog, they're available because that's how they make their money. And they're a private company, so they certainly are available.
Well,
They have
but-
3 employees, but
But it's not,
I think too, though, we have to take into consideration that our current dog control officer has not been available, which is why this person has been involved. So however you want to do it, I mean, if she wants to go with stipend, I think that you want to do it for 3 months and pay her $1,000, okay.
She's just been helping.
Is there somebody that can negotiate this with, to these cents, and then see if a contract can be drawn up?
Sure.
To have that?
Yeah, and we have copies of the contracts with the city and the Dunkirk, and the town of Dunkirk, so we have those. But yeah, we could talk to her. She'll probably be thrilled.
So if that could be done up and made available for the entire board to look over,
Sure.
maybe it could be acted on at the next board meeting.
Okay.
And a
We'll
resolution.
work on that.
But that, if it's, you're looking at $1,000 for 3 months, as opposed, well, for 4 months.
No, it should be 4, right? It should be
Right,
a
because
quarter.
that,
So
right,
then
well,
it'll
see,
be-
because I was thinking,
For
if
a
you're looking at,
quarter.
Yeah,
if you're looking
it'll be
at
$1,000 per
28,
quarter, so
$2,800, we're currently paying $2,800 for a whole year, to,
You were currently paying, like I said, almost $6,000. You lost a dog catcher that we didn't replace,
but we still have the other one. that we're
coming out
paying-
of his job.
That we're paying
And also,
$2,800.
the problem is, well, we haven't been, but we paid him out of his salary. But the problem is that he can't leave his job, or he shouldn't leave his job, to double dip with his stipend, and
Well, then
the availability has been limited.
Well, then the idea of having the second one is to do it so that they each have the.
That's why we
have
want to go with this
coverage.
company.
We have a coverage to
Right.
go.
That's why we want to go with this company, Jim. This company has 3 employees, and they're available whenever they're called. And we've checked those with the town of Dunkirk and the city. They're available whenever they're called.
Well, as long as the contract dictates that and states that, and the
Sure.
the board can look that contract over.
We'll look into it further and get some information to you
Yeah.
in time for the next meeting.
Whether it's next meeting or the
We
following.
gotta turn this back on. We have it on.
Okay, well, here.
Is it just dangerous dogs, or is I mean,
No.
there's a lot more than being a dog control officer
Yeah,
than just chasing a couple of dangerous dogs?
No,
No,
that was the high end.
yeah,
That was,
You've
Right.
got dogs running at fire.
right.
You've got our zoning laws, if there's anything over 2 dogs, the dog control officer has to pick them up and seize them.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
at least writing a parent's ticket because they can't have more than,
2 dogs in the
village.
village, yeah, that's right.
Cats.
In the village, yeah.
You know, so there's a lot more to being a dog control officer than just chasing dangerous dogs.
Well, and that's what we've been up against because it has not been implemented, and over the years it has not been implemented. And I think that those were some of the things that she brought up.
I was a dog control officer in the 80s, and it's a lot more. State, I don't know if the state still does that, but the state sends you unlicensed dogs that haven't been licensed, and you're supposed to go out and get them licensed or write
Yeah.
a parent's ticket to court.
Right.
I don't know if they still do that or not, or what the procedure is.
They send a
That's how it was
reminder.
in the 80s.
They send a reminder and they make a call because all dogs are licensed through the town of Pomfret.
Yeah,
So,
I caught the tail end of that meeting last week, and I asked a question, and there was an answer, but I can't remember. Why don't we have an animal control officer instead of just a dog control
because
officer?
Ag and Markets does not have an animal control officer anymore. They've delineated the responsibilities, and this is New York State Ag and Market laws.
Okay.
And they have said a dog catcher is a dog catcher is a dog catcher.
But what I mean, like,
Can't-
say someone's got a
can't
skunk,
deal
what do
with-
you call if you have a skunk?
Well, a private company that will deal with those nuisance animals. But our dog control officer can't deal with cats either.
No, I understand that.
But
That's why I was saying if we
that's
could-
ag and market.
But we can't hire someone called an animal control officer.
There isn't such a thing.
A lot of that's with rabies and stuff. If you
Yeah.
put a rabid skunk or
Right,
a
raccoon.
raccoon in your vehicle, now you gotta really disinfect it and scrub it before you pick up the
Yeah.
dog. That's why.
Handling is an issue, yeah. But Ag and Markets really controls that. It really governs.
Yeah,
who we
I
can-
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Number 2, Daniel Rewalt pay increase. Discussion on that, please. I don't know where this came from, or what was this?
That was remember at the end of last year, we increased his pay by like a stipend of $400. We included that in the budget again, but we need to approve it. Because we did include it in the budget, but it needs to be approved for this year.
It's the same as it was previously.
so it's the same pay as last year.
That's what we included in the budget.
I'm sorry,
With the increase.
what do you mean with the increase? There was an increase plus this, is what you're saying?
No, we increased it last year. At the end of the year, remember we passed the increase?
I can't hear what he's saying.
Alyssa included it in the budget this year, so we need to okay it, to pay him, but it's the same amount he got last year.
Oh,
That's all. So it'll be the exact same resolution with different dates,
I see.
I
see.
believe, correct?
Same resolution, just different dates.
I believe that's true. Is that right, Chip?
No. There was an increase at the end of the year, we increased it by $400,
Right.
and that matched the information. This is an increase of $1,200 based on your budget you made up last year, or this year. So it was an increase of $1,200 based on, from the increase, it was an increase of $1,200 for the year,
For the year.
for the full year.
Because the 400 was only for like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Right.
So it is an increase, which was an increase of $1,200 that the mayor had suggested on, in his budget, which you guys did not have any problem with.
We left it in.
Budgetary.
Yes.
So all she needs is a step in, not a motion, or, I'm sorry, not a motion, but
A resolution
a resolution saying that there was an increase.
in the right amount. Yes.
The right amount.
Yes.
Okay. It's
Yep.
easy enough.
Questions?
Thank you.
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay, I have just a couple quick things on new business. Central Connection Bike Ride Committee met, and we're going to have a couple more bike rides. One on August 31st at 6 p.m. and the second one will be on September 18th at, I believe, 10 a.m. Yep, 10 a.m. So the resolution that we had passed before for the bike rides was for, we'll be having future bike rides. So I just want, letting everybody know, and Chief Maslock, I'll have our Lucas Natali get a hold of you, in contact with you in regards to the particulars of the ride like we did the last ride, if that's okay.
What were those?
Perfect, thank you.
The dates were August 31st at 6 p.m. and September 18th at 10 a.m. And just one other real quick thing. Tom, this would be for you, a question for you. The dumpster at Russell Joy Park. Last year, a year before, the DPW had a dumpster there, and people were just utilizing it for their own personal trash. Is that something that you had brought in this year, and what are your thoughts on that and the board as far as removing that if people are abusing it? I'm not sure they were in the past. I can't see them not. If something's there to put your free trash in, I'm sure people are utilizing it, and it should not be done that way, so.
Yeah, sure, that's why, when I first started, we were able to just keep the dumpsters in the park all year. We didn't have to worry about it, and you didn't have to pay for a drop-off in the spring and or removal at the start of the winter. But people, by the time we got around to the spring, they were filled. So for the past few years, I've had them taken out and replaced as we start the year in May. So that's what I've been doing. Because we have to.
Because of people having to remove their trash from the pavilions and put it there, or can we come up with some other policy? Either, there are 55-gallon drums there, the DPW doesn't come in and empty those, or could we have people, whatever you bring in, you bring out? I don't know. Any discussion on that? Because there are drums around the pavilions that people, when you had.
Yeah, but as people have a party, they use that, and then they use the drums, but then it's their responsibility to empty those and put them in the dumpster.
Oh. Okay, well, if the board doesn't have any concerns with that, that was just my concern in the past. People used it for their own personal trash, and we're supplying it, if that's the case, it's not good. We're not everybody's trash pickup, so.
Yeah, they get dumped every other week, and right now they're not overloaded. Doesn't seem to be an issue, but we would know as you get through these busy summer, these couple months here when we're busy with parties. But yeah, that's typically the way that's gone for several years. But I wouldn't recommend removing the dumpsters. We need those there.
Just know that when people request extra trash cans downtown, business down there, and tenants that live above businesses just use those for their own personal dumping site. And at that time, when we did that, I told our superintendent, if people abuse them, take them out. So I hope people don't abuse this. I mean, just out there, you know, if, I'll put just a note out there. If people are doing that and the police catch you, you will be prosecuted. That's theft of service, just so people know. And if you're caught doing that, I will push for people getting prosecuted for doing that. So it's a crime, so please don't do that. Is there any other new business?
Can I go back to dog control? I should have referred to my notes here.
Sure.
I just wanted to make a correction about the amounts. Village pays $6,000, has paid in the past $6,000 for dog control. Town has paid $7,000. When the dog control officer, one of the two dog control officers quit in the middle of last year, we maintained that salary, the salary we pay both of them, for one dog control officer so that he could maintain it for the rest of the year. So beginning July 1st, he only received half of that stipend. So up until July 1st, we were paying $6,000 a year for dog control. And as of July 1st, which we were technically supposed to take care of this when we talked about it in the budget by July 1st, this is why we're doing it now, it would reduce the amount. So if we do $1,000 a quarter, it still would be it would be $2,000 less than what we've been paying a year for dog control. I just wanted to verify those. I wrote it down and I didn't read it, so I apologize.
I have new business. Tom Battaglia found 2 bans for Wednesday, the 14th and the 21st that I'm going to have a resolution on next week's meeting for. Okay, Wednesday night in the park.
That's good. Will we advertise? Do we advertise that?
I'm just going to ask Tom if that's advertised.
I don't know.
Tom, do we put that in the paper?
It would just be just a general press release.
Good.
That's it. There's nothing that I pay for advertisement, no, but just a press release.
Thanks for doing that.
Well, you're welcome.
Yes, that was something that a lot of residents have contacted me wondering what we're going to do. And so I'm glad we're able to do some of that moving forward. Thank you. Is there any other new business?
You gonna do the, oh, I guess that's old business, right?
I guess, yeah, this would be under, it could be under old or new water treatment plant.
Okay.
There was a request for, I guess I'll do it for,
Want to do it under old?
I could do it under old. We did discuss it slightly before, it was from the water treatment plant, so I'll do it under old.
Okay. Why don't you go through, I'll let you go. Old business, Lakeshore Paving. It's a contract that was there for last meeting. I'm not sure if we received any more information on that.
I do not.
We did not.
Could
So,
we ask Joy to come to the meeting on Monday?
sure.
I think it's important that we speak to her and we get, I mean, Travis gave us some explanations as to why that resolution was pulled, and there were some criteria for the grant that needed to be considered, and we knew that Lakeshore Paving was trying to reduce the cost of lighting, and now we're off. We won't be making a resolution this next meeting, so now we're off another 2 weeks, which is when.
The whole project, right, I mean.
Well,
when?
that's what I am wondering is, and I'd like to see what Joy has to say, because it's holding things up. We were ready to approve it last week, but it had the wrong amount of money. And I know that there's some consideration, and Doug, you and I spoke about this, that with this grant that we were given, there's a requirement that 30% of it be granted to minorities or women-owned businesses. And we either that or we have to ask for a special dispensation from the state to exceed that, or not, to avoid that in some way. But
I had hoped that something would have come before today,
yes,
that I didn't, I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We postponed that resolution because
Yes.
of the incorrect numbers, but I thought we would have at least some information presented by today in order so we could have it on Monday's meeting.
Well,
Because-
Travis's response, Jim, was that they were still waiting for Lakeshore paving. So, but I do think that we need to speak to Joy.
There was the other resolution about project manager.
Yes.
Right.
But even the Lakeshore paving thing is what's holding things up.
Right.
I think that we need to talk to Joy because it is holding things up.
I mean, it not only hold this up, but there's other things, events that we could be having that if they're not gonna do any work yet, that
Right.
they could have had.
Might as well be doing it,
I
right.
mean, so this is a real problem for me, that we're not moving forward with.
Right.
Because of,
So let's have her come Monday.
I'll ask her if she's able to come Monday, if she
if
is
we,
able to.
I would almost think that we
Say
would
the stuff
ask for, then maybe a special meeting in order to pass that at some point in between, just for that one resolution in order to get the project moving forward.
Well, unless she can bring us enough information on Monday that we can then possibly do it Monday.
We couldn't do it
Can't do
Monday.
it that fast.
We
But
could
we
if we
could
just amended
have
the
it-
one, we could if we amended the one from last week.
Well, I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Okay.
I think that there are several factors in that there's another bid for lighting that has to be changed, that has to be corrected, the amount has to be
That's what I
corrected.
meant. I mean,
The
we
30% for minorities, we have to apply for that. So, I mean, there's
dear.
lots of questions that need to be answered that I'm not sure will be ready for a resolution on Monday. But I agree with Jim, if we can get that moving, we can call for a special meeting. I was hoping that we could have addressed it at the special meeting on Friday, when we addressed the Barker, well, the farmers market, and asked Travis, please tell us what's going on. And unfortunately, Travis is the go-between between Joy and us, and is not employed by her. He's doing it as a favor. So I think we need to speak with her.
And again, like you spoke earlier, the state has got to be more clear on if they have to have a certain amount of MWBE
Yes.
contractors, but they don't meet the procurement policy requirements of being, the lowest bidder.
Right.
That's a state policy too. Procurement, that's their limits, so they can't do it both ways.
Right,
And
it's a conflict.
Yep, it's conflict there, so.
And that's why we have to ask for something special consideration.
Yep, so that would actually take care of the Buffalo Construction Consultants' old business as well.
I think so.
Those two things will be discussed once we try to get hold of Joy tomorrow. Number 3, masks in Village Hall. What's the trustees' board's policy? What's your consideration on that?
I think it was just dictated to us, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
So if there's any, you could explain it
Christine
for
was
us.
not clear, our court clerk, Christine, was not clear with the woman from the state, so she actually emailed her back, you can see that. And she said, everyone coming in from the outside in this building has to wear a mask in this building at all times, except for the employees.
And I
It's
thought
your
if they were in a
workspace.
private office,
And, yes, same thing,
behind closed doors.
behind closed doors, and it
Right.
includes this room as well.
Yes.
So we'll have to enforce that.
And I think we probably ought to explain that because there's a court in this building, we
Right.
have to, yeah.
Okay, seems pretty straightforward, thank you. I just have 2 quick things under old business, plaques for the park benches. Again, the public or whomever would like to have I believe there's plenty more benches left. We've had 4 people so far. You would just need to go to South Paul Signs, that's the company that did the plaques for us, and get with them. The people would pay for the plaques themselves, and the board here, you dictated here a couple meetings ago that you would request that they donate $100 towards any park improvements. So we'll go from there. There was just one issue when the benches were taken out for the construction and plaques were taken off the benches, they were replaced. One had some mistakes on it, so it's going to have to be
Redone.
rectified and redone,
The plaque of the bench.
the plaque. And it needs to be, the family would like it placed back where it was at the original bench, if that's possible. So I guess, I don't know if that would take a resolution or the board's pleasure on redoing a mistake that was done for a plaque.
Did we make the mistake?
Or the
Apparently-
engraver makes this mistake.
Yeah, I don't know who made the mistake, it's not the correct wording on the plaque.
I'm not
Okay.
sure why it would take a resolution,
No.
the business is aware of it, it's gonna
Fix it.
correct it, right?
I haven't contacted the business yet because what happened was this nice lady called me about a month ago. I don't know what happened to the note I had with her information on. She just gave me a phone call this afternoon. I wasn't here, and I will get back to her tomorrow, but
But I mean, it should be just as easy as calling this business and saying, we need one that's right.
that's correct.
Right, I mean-
Should be.
I don't see why it would take a resolution.
No, we
Yeah.
don't.
No.
All right, well,
Just get
yeah,
it.
I don't know if they received the wrong information. I don't know where the mistake is
Yeah.
at, so.
Right.
Okay.
Just so we all know. But other than that, we have 4 people who would like to put plaques on there. So the public, if you want to, go on our website, get my email, and email me, and or just go down to South Paul Signs. That's all I have for old business. Is there any other old business?
Where are we with Forcon in obtaining the right-of-ways for the logging that's supposed to go on at?
I believe one of our attorneys was in the process of doing that. I don't know where we are exactly on that process.
Yeah,
Chris may know more on that.
I would think that they'd want to moving on that, because there was some repair work that, of the roadway, that
Right.
access road, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
that needed, that the streets department needed to deal with.
Right.
And I would think that we would not, by now, I mean, it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
that
we
they-
haven't heard from Forcon for a while, and I just wondered, I know they were seeking right-of-ways, so.
Is Chris here tonight or not?
Yeah, he's on,
Is he?
oh, no, he was, no, he's gone.
Okay, well, maybe we can have Chris come to the meeting on Monday and give us an update, I don't know.
Or just tell us where.
Or
I mean,
email
yeah,
everybody, I don't care.
Maybe the attorney can tell us where we're at with that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Yeah, they-
just wondering if we're moving along or we're stalled or what, but.
Right.
And how about the White Inn Yard? I noticed, are we on a regular basis or we have to contact them every time it gets tall?
Apparently,
My understanding is some lady that's running for legislator or something had got the info
She
from the
did that,
bank and is asked to
yeah.
cut it.
She's
So
done
She's
that.
supposed to be doing it. We watched our hands of it.
apparently,
Really?
Sue Parker, who is the legislator now for that district, the contractor she had contracted for that day, apparently had made an agreement with the owners, J&G Financing, to do that on a regular basis. So they're supposed to be doing it on a regular basis, and it doesn't look like they are. The county and is working diligently to get some investors to purchase that, so hopefully that won't be too much longer. But again, the current owners, J&G Holdings, is supposed to be having a contractor be taking care of that on a normal basis.
Yeah, because I thought Sue Parker's event was just a one-time event. I didn't realize she.
No, I believe Steve called her in the last week or two. I said it was going to be shabby over there. Just know that we've already sent violations out. We can step in any time and cut it. We're prepared. So,
I would suggest continue with the violations. They're supposed to be keeping up on it. They hired a
Yes.
contractor,
Yeah.
so I don't know what the deal is there. I'm not in contact with the owners.
And we billed them, right? After, when we send a violation and we billed them for the cost, right? I think it can be added to their taxes.
I don't know if they paid it. That's why we use this one guy, because he's real cheap. I think $80 he charges us,
Yeah.
which for that very long
Yeah.
is pretty good. I don't believe we ever found a bank to charge.
We have an address, we have a
If we have an
contact
address,
now,
we
yeah.
can, yeah, or Alyssa could probably charge him, and send him a bill.
Yes, we should be
Whatever
billing
we're
them,
paying for
yeah.
it.
And then the last question I had was about the debris on Forest. I know that, it's my understanding that the insurance claim has been processed and the woman is not responding,
No,
is she?
we did talk to her a week or two ago. Can I talk to you in executive session on that?
Sure, yep,
Or as soon as we
That's
get off
fine.
the air?
okay, yeah. We're gonna talk to him in executive session anyway, so that'll be good.
Um,
Necessarily, maybe, That's not executive session criteria, but if you want to discuss off the air,
Yeah, just off the air.
But we are going to speak to him in executive session. That's my request, so, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, as long as.
But it doesn't have to be that, but
Okay.
there's another topic,
Okay,
so, yeah.
okay, I was gonna say, as
Yeah.
long as it meets the executive session
Sure,
criteria.
yeah.
Thank you. Is there any other old business?
Yeah, a few things. So first of all, the one thing, since Chuck's here, just want everybody to be aware that because of the gentleman that came during the last meeting, Gus Popovich called me after, a day or so after the last meeting, and he wanted to just discuss with me, issues that he had, and but as under a matter of transparency, and that he requested a FOIL for information that he didn't feel he got, and I said, well, maybe there was a misunderstanding, and if he could clarify that, and he could probably get what he needs, if whatever is available that he's allowed to have. I don't know what I don't know what he requested or how he requested. But I said if there was an issue, it's actually not the board members that dealt with that, it would be the clerk and the mayor, and that's who would handle that. He wasn't real happy about all that, but, and also that we don't have any dealings with the farmer's market, I told him, because the farmer's market is their own entity. We don't run the farmer's market. He tried to say that we had control of certain health issues and other things and stuff like that. I said, as long as they buy their permits as required and pay their insurance as required, then they're good to go. I mean, we accept, pass a resolution for them allowed to move forward. But that's within their own, who they have. I explained to them who they have is up to them in their market. It's not up to us. It has nothing to do with us.
And I think, Jim, isn't that the FOIL, I mean, he's asking for FOILable information that's not ours, because we don't do anything with them. We keep their insurance coverage.
I think that might be part of the misunderstanding, but I like I said, that's not for me to answer, but I believe that's probably part of the problem. And after that conversation, I did ask him, seeing as you're on the phone, how are you doing with the removal of the illegal signs placements? And he quickly said, how do you say it? Aha, there it is what he said. Got you now. And I'm going,
What's that mean?
essentially, he's trying to say that we're not helping him because of the, you know what I mean? Saying that because he's got illegal signs that we're not helping him in some way or something like that. He says, I got you. You know, that kind of just kept going on like that. Yeah, we got you. And I'm going, so essentially he's trying to set me up by calling me. So anyhow, I wanted the board to know and the mayor and the clerk to know that, of course, I agree with all transparency and that he should receive all the things that he's supposed to get legally. And other than that, it's not our place to speak for the farmers market. It's not our organization. We don't run it.
And there's another issue, no affiliation.
What's that?
There's another issue.
Well, let me ask though, Anne Marie, he has received what we have,
Yes.
yes.
I don't have what he wants.
Right.
That's the issue. That's
Only
part of
the LLC for the farmer's market
Yes,
has
I
it.
have a general certificate of insurance for the farmer's market, which he has.
So
Right,
he seems to think different, so
Right.
anyhow.
yeah.
So, yes, I mean,
We talked about it today.
yeah, we've been on this
Okay.
and so forth. So
Thank you.
the person that's responsible for that is the informations officer, which is Anne Marie. But to answer questions, it's not only my responsibility, it's also the board's responsibility to try to find answers. So it's just, I agree with you, it's mine, but I mean, it's not, it's, if anybody asks you a question, it's up to you also to find answers and look into it. It's not my responsibility to provide him with that FOIL information, it's our information officer. That part is not ours.
That's how I left it, yes.
And we will provide anybody with the, if they FOIL information, with what is required by the village to provide them with that. And I will try making contact with that person and make sure that he understands whether he wants to accept it or not.
Right.
That we have provided him with everything that we're responsible to provide him with. and move forward from there.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because that, I mean, that's what I'd hoped would happen.
Scott says there's more to that, though.
Do you want to talk about that?
Probably not right now.
Well, if a FOIL comes in, it goes to Anne Marie.
Correct.
She sends us a letter with the request of the FOIL. If we don't have anything, we send a letter back saying that we don't have anything.
Right,
If we do have stuff, but like say now, we've been shorthanded, we have X amount of time to get that document together.
right,
And the last 2 months wasn't a good time for us.
right.
So we could tell them at this date, you'll get your information. It's just right now, with one inspector, he just can't look up FOILs and stuff. Unless it's something real simple, we could just turn it over to her, we would. But if it's, some people get crazy with FOILs, and in that case, it's, you know, if it takes a lot of time, we just can't produce it right away.
But it just sounds like we currently have provided everything that we're legally responsible to provide, that we have access to and are required to provide, so there's
And the
no
only thing I
question.
would have is food truck information, if you wanted information on the food trucks.
That's not what he's foiling.
I would have that, but.
Yeah, he's foiling farmer's market information.
Yeah,
Certificates of insurance.
Yeah.
We don't have a contract with them.
So,
Okay.
I just wanted you to be aware of that. So, and then we have a request from wastewater treatment plant supervisor, Sean Rayner, to, if we get a resolution for Monday for the training that we talked about for Everett Reardon, for the operator training, so that those dates are coming available. He did send the information to everybody, but if we can get a resolution in order for him to start attending those trainings, would be great. He said he would appreciate that. Okay. And lastly, in light of what came forward at the last regular meeting, I asked the mayor if there's a way, some way to handle a situation that came up having to do with the CSA came and spoke of issues with some employees. And in order to rectify those situations and to deal with the trustee and trustees that were made all that come about. And I would ask that the mayor find it in a way to censor the two trustees. The first of all, the one that sent the text as the union person that spoke of, removing that person from the personnel committee, and also, that's Roger Britz, and also Eva Dawn as a person that on the personnel committee, to remove her from the personnel committee because that she was also involved in making those changes to the personnel that ultimately left this all in the position we are at, and if then we could then move those two personnels back to their original status within the village and hopefully end all these issues.
No, I want to speak to one of those. This might predate, actually, maybe you were on the board at the time. Let's see what I have here. Just in regard to moving the person from streets to here, I just wanted to remind everybody of what the actual motion was, the resolution that was passed back in January 23rd of 2017. And I just want to read this to you. Upon motion duly made by Trustee Jones and seconded by Trustee Linden, the following resolution was unanimously adopted. Be it resolved that the resolution adopted by the Board of Trustees on January 23rd, 2017, regarding the appointment of a clerk 2 at the Street Department is hereby amended to any location of the village of Fredonia and any hours as needed and directed.
Correct, as needed and directed.
And that's exactly what it was.
That's is correct, but if you read the policy of our HR department, it said that it says that it has to be under the consideration of the whole board and to make those moves. And so that never happened. It was not on consideration of our whole board. It was a consideration of just the personnel committee taking the authority that they don't have. Committees don't have authority to make decisions. They can report information. And that happened, and it went through the HR department, who does not have the authority to do that, and either. And so they sent out a letter making those changes. Hence all these problems. And there's an awful lot of conflicting information, but the end result is it was a total chaos, and we had some inappropriate action from one particular trustee. And so I asked the mayor to address this.
Well, I want to address that too real briefly.
Well, hang on a minute. I think that our attorney is asking to speak to us in executive session in regard to this, and is present downstairs waiting for us. But I do think that we do need to clarify that, well, we do need to clarify that open forum last week with the CSEA was not initiated by, the reason for it was not because people were moved. It came up as part of the topic, but it wasn't what initiated that cry for people to come and attend the meeting. That had to do with some statements that were made and some interactions with correspondence back and forth, that there were statements cherry-picked out of it. But I think that those are things that have to be addressed. I think statements have to be made, and I think that we need to speak with the attorney in regard to that. But the movement of any employees was not the reason they came last week, and there is not chaos in the village.
Part of it.
It was included in it but there is not chaos in the village, and I think that the reason why there was no comment last week, and there has to be a very careful comment made here, is that the public needs to realize we are in the middle of negotiations with this particular unit, and therefore it was not appropriate to make any statements. Not to say that some won't follow, but because we're in the middle of negotiations, it was not appropriate for any response to occur. I understand social media's had some issue with that, but it was not appropriate for us to respond, especially since we're in the middle of negotiation. And I think that there will be something forthcoming.
I don't think that the negotiation of contracts had anything to do with
I think it had everything to do with it.
The treatment of employees.
It had everything to do with it.
The treatment of employees has nothing to do with contract negotiations.
Okay, well, we can address specifically that.
I mean, it was brought up in an open public forum, so it should be handled in public forum.
So does this lead to some kind of resolution that you'd like, or a motion? Because otherwise I don't understand why we're even talking about it.
It doesn't, it's not it could be a resolution to put the employees back to their original status. Whether you guys are willing to move that forward and pass it, I don't know, but I think that I'm asking the mayor in the workshop to do what he can.
As far as committees, if you look into, I looked into that. The board can amend and rescind and so forth those committees. I suppose I could say I will remove the personnel people from the trustees from the personnel committee, but I don't know legally if I'm able to do that.
You are the appointing.
I'm the appointing, but that's at the beginning of each year. If you look at, unfortunately, I don't have the power. What happens is after I appoint trustees to committees, if you look under section 63 of our charter, after that the trustees can amend, add, delete whoever they want from committees, or I can form a new special committee, and so can the trustees. I think specifically some of this, as far as the employment of specific DPW personnel, could be discussed in executive session.
There's a bigger issue here, though. I mean, a trustee expressed an opinion that some people found offensive and didn't like. Well, too bad. There's something called the First Amendment that protects free speech, and you don't like someone's opinion, so what? You know? It didn't affect people's jobs. There was nothing beyond an opinion expressed that was personal, that somehow became public, which also is an issue. So this whole idea, I don't care if you don't like his opinion. Who cares? It gets a little scary when you start telling people what they can and can't say and think, because you don't like it. So I want to be done with this.
When it affects a person's job, there is a problem. You could.
It affects the job in no possible way by expressing an opinion. And I'm sure, I will bet you any amount of money, that if you go to the streets department, they're not saying kind things about the people sitting here either. So let's stop pretending that this, no one says anything.
These have authority over people. This is the Board of Trustees. These are, I mean, they have.
Well, you're sitting here telling us we don't have authority to move people around, so which is it?
As a full board, we do. Individually, you do not.
Well, keep in mind that just because someone's opinion is offensive and you don't like it, that does not lead to censure, it does not lead to be removal. It's too bad, is what it is.
Yeah, that's a shame that you feel that way.
Oh, because I don't like the, you don't, what do you have against the First Amendment? I mean, for crying out loud, Jim, I mean, think about this.
I am thinking about it. The union wouldn't have been here if they felt that it wasn't an issue.
All right, well, we will discuss employment of the specific DPW personnel in executive session. As far as actions on the board, let's see what we get out of executive session. Is there any other old business? Okay, can I have a motion to enter into executive session to regard contract negotiations and also the employment of specific DPW personnel?
And also for code enforcement, there's a code enforcement issue. It has to do with contract.
Also with contract negotiations?
Legal. A legal issue.
Okay. Can somebody make a motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to enter into executive session. Trustee Linden?
Aye.
Trustee Britz?
Yes.
Trustee Bashaw?
Yes.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Carried. And we will do that downstairs.